All right, everybody. Catch AIDS back here, and I'm back with another video guaranteed to get me millions of views and a ton of clout. I'm going to review the rehearsal recordings of international multi-platinum death metal heroes, Erotic Incisions. I'm not sure I can show you the cover of this album here. Anyhow, if you clicked on this, it's probably because you're a fan of Clean Flesh and probably Heinous Killings too. And you're probably in your 40s, and there's a good chance you're from Ohio. So, Erotic Incisions is the band that Clean Flesh ultimately became. Around late 1997, they changed their name to Erotic Incisions, and there were a couple of lineup changes. And we didn't get much out of them, but I'm grateful for anything at this point. And Burning Dogma Records was very brave enough to put this out. Thank God. We've only been waiting for 20 something years. Burning Dogma Records, like, they've got all kinds of just old nostalgic stuff that any death metal fan who was around in the 90s and possibly some younger is going to go bananas about. Not just Clean Flesh and Erotic Incisions, but we're talking like Flesh Grind, Deaden, Repudiation, whatever you can name. Oh God, all kinds of stuff. So anyhow, yeah, if you're an underground death metal nostalgia maniac like me, check out their roster. Now let's get to the music itself. When I think about 90s death metal bands that, never put out a full-length album, never really went as far as they could, bands with enormous unfulfilled potential, Erotic Incisions was definitely one such band. Now, if they were around nowadays, they probably just sit behind their computers and just crank out a bunch of songs. But back then, distance was an issue with these guys. They were scattered all throughout Ohio. You got Joe Wolf living, east of Columbus, whereas drummer Christian Fannin would have lived in Dayton, like in the Belmont area, and the other guys lived north of him, like in Miami and Shelby County. And I think they got a bass player from Toledo eventually. So, yeah, rehearsals must have been a big issue back then. So I understand from what I hear, bands just don't just rehearse as much as they used to. I guess bands now just play whatever and send the files off to each other and use a Dropbox and do everything remotely. So things are a lot different now. And back then, we didn't have the internet. It was the dawn of the internet, even before Napster. So stuff like a rehearsal recording, even back then, a low quality rehearsal recording was something still sought after. And I don't think bands really do that nowadays. So one thing I really like about this CD was that it has the entire unedited rehearsal. So you get random blast beats between the songs, just screwing around, guitar noodling, burps in the microphone, everything. Back then, we loved that kind of stuff. And it was great to see bands like Death, have a little bit of rehearsal screwing around between songs and stuff like that. So great. And anyhow, I'm gonna guess this probably wasn't recorded on a 4-track. Back then, if you were recording at home, you recorded on a Tascam or Fostex 4-track or a boombox. If you're too young to know what that stuff is, just Google it or whatever. So I'm guessing this was recorded on a boombox. That being said, for a boombox recording, it does sound pretty good. Now, one thing, yeah, I love the random noodling and all that in between the songs. Oh yeah, I'm so grateful for former guitarist Harold Burton having hung on to these recordings for all these years, taking good care of them. A lot of the stuff that I used to have from the 90s, I don't know where they went. I had an old Clean Flesh CD, which I guess is worth $1 million now. I don't know where it went. I had sent a lot of stuff from Austin, and the Postal Service stole a whole bunch of tapes and stuff. some of which were worth a substantial amount of money, some of which probably can't be replaced. So somewhere in between Austin and Columbus, the post office stole some stuff, which they probably don't even know the value of what they stole. So anyhow, as far as the songs themselves on this recording, I'm not as crazy about them as I was the Clean Flesh material. They're still good, but I don't think this is going to win over new, younger fans. It's going to satisfy aging death metal nerds like me. Also, I hear there's some phenomenal live footage out there somewhere that's probably in somebody's basement deteriorating. But as far as my favorite song on here, it would be Impalement of the Whore. Now, there's two different versions of it on this CD. And I've heard two previous versions of it with Clean Flesh. One of it's a live recording from Piqua, Ohio. Of course, I no longer have that. And the other is from the rehearsal video that I'd seen on Rick Smith's MySpace page, which is myspace.com/extrasickrick. Now, if you could get that, I'd love to hear it. I'd mentioned this in previous videos. It has a couple other songs. She Comes Maggots, Chunks of Clit, and some other song about menstrual blood. I'm not sure what the exact title is. But anyhow, according to Rick Smith, he lent the VHS tape that this was on to somebody else. And back then, if you lent somebody some irreplaceable VHS cassette or an audio cassette to somebody, guarantee you that that person was going to lose it. That's just how it was back then. There's so much irreplaceable stuff that's gone missing, and it's a damn shame. So, what are the band members of this band doing nowadays? Well, I don't think these guys are doing too much musically. I think the best chance that we have of any of these guys is Steve Haas. He's one of the former guitar players, and according to his social media, he's got a bunch of nice guitars that he could put to use, and it shows the guitar, the one with the maple neck that he used to play in Clean Flesh. He recently had that restored. So I would like for him to, team up with some old or new musicians and bring some of these old songs to life, give them a decent recording. He was a great songwriter. I loved his solos too. Really good stuff. But anyhow, I'm happy for this nonetheless. But anyhow, let's hope the MySpace rehearsal comes through someday. And there is the Toledo Death Fest or whatever it was, like from 98 or 99. And I hear that there's a possible recording of that. And the Texas Grind Fest. There's footage of that, allegedly. So, if you're into all that, go to Burning Dogma Records. They got a Bandcamp. And just order whatever the hell you can. And anyhow, I'm going to be jamming out to this for a little bit more. So, if you can come up with those songs, come up with those recordings, I'd love to hear them.